Hey everybody, is it a Star Trek headache or virtual evolution? Yeah, today on Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek. Actually, check the calendar, it's a third Tuesdays Live with Dr. Trek. Here coming at you from the heart of Trekland right through Portal 47. It's a third Tuesday. That means there'll be a 24-hour Trekland bonus deal coming up a little later. But for right now, welcome once back to Tuesdays. I want to thank all of our Patreon folks, especially for helping us get here. Yep, our TTL Club is Blaze K and Lawrence Todd. And hey, our TTL Club live wires are Rusty Harold, Gerald Cooper, Mr. Vestek, Halbjorn Gunderson, and Jalen Bullock. Thanks, guys, so much. I'll have more information about how you could be part of our Patreon club, too, in just a minute. If you are new to Tuesdays Live, thanks so much for being here. We're going to have a little soapbox from me here. And then after the break, a look at the Parrot TV streaming analytics. And, of course, our live Q&A, along with that bonus deal. That'll be before the break. So thanks for being here. I will get to the chat in a minute. And you know what? I'm leaving the tap on for YouTube and Twitch. If you're coming at us from YouTube or Twitch, just know that the chat experience is more robust. It's more satisfying at Facebook. But I've got a footprint in Twitch and YouTube. And if you are on Twitch, I have to say this a few times. It's not typical streaming. We are just chatting, but I'm just chatting with two other rooms, Facebook and YouTube. So don't get discouraged. Yeah. Is it a Star Trek headache or virtual evolution? Now, what led me to this was, I don't know, some of you may have been there. I'll check in a minute and see. But here we go. Bang. Yay. This past Sunday, wonderful little invention called Connected Community Con. Now look, we've been talking about this since, I guess, March, about the coronavirus, and not just the virus and its effect on fandom, but look, I had 1 week where we talked about, will virtual save fandom? I don't know if save is the right word, but it's certainly been a fill-in. And what was new, strange, and different to everybody in March, well, except to my Portal 47ers, of course. We've been doing it for 5 years. But for most of the world, and the most of the world that hadn't been Zooming or free conference calling or GoToMeeting in their business meetings, certainly the last thing they thought about was a streaming system that could be for something for fun, not boring business. And we've all been through that revolution pretty much nationwide, to the point where Saturday Night Live and everybody else can make parodies about it, right? I'm sure there are horror mystery films coming along the way where streaming is the key central format, even after we can film live again. No, what I'm talking about is what happened Sunday. Look, I know a lot of you have taken advantage of the virtual guest chats. It's been a wonderful fill-in for the lack of live conventions, whether it was Trek actors or even the more normal convention experience where you've got fans or you've got other kind of creatives like writers and producers, visual effects, makeup people, whatever. But the thing about those have all been, so far, even as they have burgeoned, is that they're great. They're great, but they're one-to-ones. You know what I mean? They are great for the hosts, whoever it is, a convention, an agent, an actor on their own, a charity, a podcaster doing a charity with an actor. You know, shout out to Dan and Bill on Trek Geeks a few nights ago with Jonathan Frakes for a food hunger charity. But it's all one-to-one point. Now, it's still something to get used to. The streaming experience, I had to get used to just some of these other formats. Zoom, and yay, we started restreaming here thanks to Life Support Live. with Dr. Ali on Saturdays. And now I restream. I got over that hump, and now we are on YouTube and Twitch. Not so much to be live, but I love the archival access right there on YouTube. Needs editing, but still, it's there at least for now. But it's a different world. It is a different mindset. You watch guests. I mean, it's different for you if you're watching. I mean, it's nice that you can still get in a queue line or queue up to ask questions as well as take it in. But it is different, right? And it's different for the guest. It's different for the speaking guest. It's different for the moderator, host. I mean, you've got to learn a software. It's not just sit down at a table, stare out at that approving mob or, 3 or 4 faces. It's a different skill set. Now, look, what happened Sunday, hashtag CommunityCon, Community Connected Convention, which is put on our great friends, Kayla and Jake at Science Div. Shout out to them at Science Div. The people that make the animated Tribbles. Tribbles not animated with motorifics, but with, some amount of motorizing, but it mainly automated by a chip. Program chip that you have a control over. That's wireless. You can make it purr. You can make it chirp. You can make it Klingon attack. It's awesome. But they were very mindful as fans rush to only think of themselves. Selfish fans. No. Everybody's thinking about the fans. What about me? A few people actually remembered that this is going to be a big chunk out of the income of a lot of actors. We are long past the stage where actors did conventions and signing shows because they were 85 and they couldn't do anything else. The shame in most quarters has gone out of actors. A lot of fans don't realize this, but it's like the minute an actor went and did a convention or especially a signing show, it was like, oh, well, they're a wash up. They'll never do anything else. This is how they're going to, get their crackers and cheese to scrape by on until they're put away somewhere. No, the stigma's off. They're out doing it. And it's a big chunk of income for a lot of them, especially if they're between major gigs. No shame there at all. Some people, included, tried to remember the income. Also, income for agents, guys. Some of my best friends are agents, and they're losing a chunk of change out of this too. So some of these fill-ins have been good for the income stream down the line. No, what's really was forgotten in all this is what about all the vendors? And you know what? They're not all big licensee brick and mortar folks who are still struggling as incomes drop, and there's a lot of income insecurity going on. Have we really weathered it, or is the worst yet to come? No, that's not a popular song once sang in VIX by Cisco and Vic. It's the exact opposite. We all wondering, that's part of the uncertainty. But meanwhile, right now, people got to eat, people got to pay bills, hopefully. And a lot of those folks, your booth folks are out there. And they're not all big corporations. A lot of them are mom and pops. A lot of them are momettes and popettes. A lot of them are people like me. Even if they're not selling, if they're not commercial enterprises, a lot of folks, our podcasters, our news sites, depended on that for information sharing and getting the word out, meeting new fans, friends, expanding their mail list. That whole experience went away. Sure, we think of the glam with the actors, but what about the dealer's room, the vendor's room, the exhibition hall, if you must? Yeah. So, Kayla and Jake at Science Division, Science Div, put together this convention to help that. But what would that look like? Again, a guest chat's relatively easy, even though it's a lot of hoops to jump through. It's point to point, whether you're on the giving end or you're on the receiving end. How do you mock a dealer's room? How about, as they devised, how about every dealer, every table, every booth has a Zoom room? And you do what you want to do in your little virtual box. Hey, everybody. And then people visiting for the visitor experience, here's the list of our dealers. Here's the list of our booths and tables. Because no, not everyone was dealing in the old-fashioned sense. No more accurate than it is when it's used in live. But here's the list. And there were about 37 on the list. A couple couldn't make it by press time. So there were like 35 booths going on at this virtual exhibit room. And you wandered from room to room, booth to booth, armed with your list of Zoom IDs. Some were on Skype. And, you know, on paper, it was great to come up with the concept, but what would that be like in real life? Now, aside from that, oh my God, Alexander Siddig, who some of you may be following on his Sid City Club, came in and did a half-hour welcome panel. So there was a guest presence. There was an actor presence there. And then afterward, our good friend Trekkie, 24-year Trekkie, Ali Martinez, did a wonderful panel on anti-gatekeeping, anti-bullying, being yourself, fandom respect. Did a wonderful panel the hour after that, and then an hour of music. Kevin's last name escapes me. Brinegar, I want to say. And then I did an after party, kind of like a landing party STLV, only landing or departing. We called it B-Mount Trivia. And it was officially not the con, it was officially after the con. It was BYOB, though. And that was a lot of fun, too. I was glad to do it. But I wanted the experience of seeing how the hell was this going to work? This was not just a point-to-point. Now, it was point-to-point in some ways, individual goers, and a lot of you were there. I want to hear about this when we get to the questions. And again, we'll do questions, our live Q&A after the break. But yeah, we got through it. It was incredible. There were a lot of parts that reminded me of a live show. It was slow at the beginning. I had one person come in who hung around, I think, out of guilt. And then after about 30 minutes, that person being there 15, 20 minutes by themselves, then it exploded. And at most, we had 10, 12 there. Now, what was interesting differently on the dynamic was that whereas at a table, you might be talking to one person and one person is silently being very patient. Well, a third person walks up to a table, unless they're purely browsing, and that's all they mean to be. But if they want to talk, the third person really feels like the third wheel. 4 people, forget about it. Unless there's something really entertaining going on, which means probably somebody else walked up, because I'm not going to be that entertaining. But if there's a little show going on, okay, yeah, then we might have a line, a crowd. If there's something planned happening, that I had somebody scheduled to come by. Otherwise, you'd never have that in a live show. So here we are with 10, 12 people, because you could tell all the attendees were experiencing what this was like also. There's an after action report, a survey going around for participants to see what we felt about it. But, you know, you go from 0 to 60. You go from killing time, treading water, to murdering metaphors, to having 12 people. And you're trying to, it's easy to say hi, and you're letting them in. In my case, I had a waiting room, and I had to remember to let people in and try to greet everyone as they walked in. So your mind is constantly going back from just a convention booth to almost as if you had a brick and mortar store, and you're the Walmart greeter, you're the CVS greeter behind the counter that's saying hi to everybody, so everybody feels included. 2 or 3 times you had people poke in. You could see somebody dinged in, and if you didn't get right there in 5 or 10 seconds, they dinged out. Maybe they thought 10 or 12 people was too many. I was trying to mentally prepare myself. Oh my God, what if this runs away? And it's going to be 50 people or 100 people? Room max, 100 people on Zoom, unless you pay for a really higher tier. But so we got up to about 12 people, which was plenty and fine. And I had a couple of things prepared, but mostly we had conversations. And it was Zoom, so it wasn't just the chat, although people could chat. A couple of people had troubles with cameras. We were Zoom live talking. So I had a couple of show and tell things from one of my graphic Trek scrapbooks. Normally the Portal 47ers only see that stuff. But that was an experience. And people felt I didn't have to mute everybody. I kept it open. A lot of people self-muted because they just wanted to listen. But it was an experience. But it was, you had definite host duties. You were hosting your table, which is a fun way to look at it, interesting. And people coming and going. As we wore on, because it was a 3-hour block. This was not for 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. It was a 3-hour block. I noticed a couple things. One, I had the very same feeling that I did when in a live event, which is I want to get up and see everybody else that I know or meet some new people at their tables. You can't do that. You have to physically take a break and get up and wander the room, right? Which to me at Vegas typically happens at about 3 on Sunday when everybody's in their mindset of getting the hell out of here. It's that same feeling. So I knew I couldn't because we only had 3 hours. So I got to where I would ask everybody as they came in the room. It became very natural. Hey, how's the rest of it? What's going on out there? I'm locked in here with all of you good people, but how's it going outside? And at the group things later, not so much at the panel, but at the trivia, I actually took a head count and said, so how was it for everybody? Of course, Kayla and Jake are very excited and interested to hear how it's going too for everybody, the experience. That was interesting, and it was fun to watch fangoers come in. Some of them are old Zoom, I had our Portales that were there, were old veterans of this, and even people who do virtual, guest chats, and even do a Q&A, it's still a very one-to-one, dynamic. Paradigm is even when you ask a question, it's very one-to-one, and this was something different. I don't know of anybody else, any large convention that's tried to have a dealer room component. Now, Comic-Con through little sister WonderCon, little brother WonderCon that they've had, not so much on the dealers, but big Comic-Con has got an event. They're canceled, obviously, in San Diego. They came out early on with Comic-Con at Home, its own logo. They're going to do virtual panels from the big industrials on down, sent out words to past panelists about doing this. Now, it only was in the news last week, but we had to submit panels as normal earlier than usual. In May, the decisions were made, and I'm filming a panel. Now, filming. We're recording a panel ahead of time. There's no live streaming at Comic-Con at Home. I don't know exactly when the schedule for mine's going to be, but it's going to be Trek, and it'll be people you know. Oh, I think are we allowed to say after? Yes, we're allowed to say. I'm doing a science advisors panel, so we're going to have Narain Shankar, Andre Bormanis, and Dr. Eric McDonald, who constitute the last 3 generations of series Star Trek science advisors, which I think is pretty awesome. I would love to have Harvey P. Lynn from the RAND Corporation, but he passed a few years ago. But I would have loved to talk to him about consulting for the original series from day one of the Cage, and even the animated series, if you saw Trek Files recently with Dr. Aaron. I'd love to have him. I'd love to have talked to Jesko von Puttkamer, who very famously revolutionized a lot of the science advising going into the motion picture, and kind of finally put a handle around what theoretical warp drive would look like in a Star Trek lens. The first one to really talk about subspace bubbles, a warp bubble, a warp field, a subspace field. Yeah, we don't have them, but that will be but it's recorded ahead of time to strictures. So you lose the live component and you lose the ability to have Q&A there. But with doing hundreds of these, it's an amazing feat. But Comic-Con is actually also going to have some kind of a virtual dealer's room. I'm not sure what that's looking like. They're going to attempt it. Other than that, I don't know who else is trying that. Maybe somebody knows. Maybe you've heard. Maybe some of our European folks and friends have seen virtual dealers' rooms online as well. So yeah, we're going to get to the Q&A in a minute. I'm just curious to hear what everybody's experience is. But here's my bottom line and the reason for this week's title. Is it a Star Trek headache or virtual evolution? When we were done with this, I mean, I've done 3-day convention, 2-day, 3-day, 4-day conventions. In the case of Vegas, 5. Not all of them are often where I'm sitting at the table constantly. You're getting up to go to a panel, you're getting up to go to a break, going see people, you've got meetings. I'll go off and do recordings, hopefully do some interviews. But this was just a half hour with Sid, point-to-point guesting, 3 hours at your table, and then an hour with Allie, and then a break off during music to prep for the trivia, and then hosting trivia, which you're on, as we say. You are on, and you're hosting, leading, where you got the responsibility of leading other people. Not the same as having your table, but you still have host feelings, responsibilities. You want to make everybody feel welcome in something that's new and different. But I got to tell you, when we were done, I was wiped. I don't know about the rest of you who attended Connected Community Con. I was wiped. I felt like I'd been sitting at that table for 8 hours, not just 3 with some other add-ons. And it got me to thinking, was this just, I'm rusty? We haven't done a real con since February. In my book, the Doctor Who convention here in LA, Gallifrey 1, is my last convention until who knows what. Am I that rusty? Or is it something else going on here? Now look, I'm going to save the academia of psychology and neurology for Dr. Ali for one of our Saturday sessions with Life Support Live, and I sure invite you all to come join us, 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern, 6 p.m. British Summer Time, 7 Central European Time, on Facebook mainly, but also YouTube and Twitch. I'm going to save it for one of those days, but I cannot help thinking right now, we already know that the digital revolution is rewiring our brains. We already know that the advent of video games is probably going to, and joysticks since the 80s with arcade games, 70s and arcade games, and handhelds. We all know the ergonomics, the interface human, that's having an effect on the way, since kids are picking it up at 2 and 3 and 4 and living their whole lives that way. Are we going to see? People are trying to study. We're even seeing physiological changes, much less the much subtler, and I'm going to say, layman psychologist here, much easier evolution of the way our brains are wired. Now, people have been studying this. Again, I'm not going to deluge you here with studies. Dr. Ali sent me a couple, but it's undeniable that since the age of media, since the late 1800s, going from novelty Nickelodeons, to full screen movies, small screen TV, bigger screen TV, small screen mobile devices. Whatever the technology level is, the way producers give us media is rewiring our brains, not just moving picture media and then sound, but also text information. We've gone from oral tradition to, thank you, Gutenberg, printed press, to now reading things on screens. Tiny, tiny, tiny. And that's just been really the advent of computers in the 60s, 70s, reading screens, paper printout, screens at work, and now our handheld devices. We're checking information on tiny, tiny, tiny situations. And it's rewiring the brain. And it's not just the format, it's how we're getting it, right? It's the stop-start. It's the way we experience it, and even when we experience each other experiencing it. And that's where my mind went. Look, the pandemic, thank God, hopefully, is going to eventually pass. And we will all treasure that first year back. We are going to so treasure our live events, sports, our cons, theater, movie theaters, much less live theaters, comedy show. I mean, the whole gamut of live entertainment and live interacting. Hell, people will probably love their trade shows, their boring business meetings again, to a certain extent. But there's going to be a residual effect on this. We have tended to look at this as what's the life-saving, residual out of this that's going to stick as something practical. But even apart from the how-to, the practical, deliver. Oh, this makes sense. This is efficient. Well, all conventions have a digital ticket now. There's just a single camera set up, maybe 2. Woo! For the ritzy ones, and you can pay a very cheap ticket and sit there in Paducah or in Slaughterville, wherever you are, and you can't get to Vegas or New York or LA or Chicago or Houston. but you can watch online, which should have been a duh moment all along. Just like it should have been a duh moment to have a to have a convention in Vegas with the experience there, but it still took 4 years. 3 at least, 4 maybe, before somebody figured it out. Why waste it on an anniversary? Do it every year. But someday we're going to see how much of a residual coming out of the pandemic is when we're past the pandemic. We're not bound by it, but this residual. But even apart from conventions and big events, this thing right here has changed us for forever. And I'm wondering how, depending on how much it sticks, depending on how much there's use found for it, is that going to rewire our brains even more? Of course, it depends on how much are we totally living 24/7 by the virtual box? Are we Zooming and free conference calling and all of that? Are Skyping, multi-Skyping, and the startups yet to come? Are we doing it 24/7? Probably not. So maybe not. I'm just saying that after 3 hours of booth hosting and getting used to seeing strips of faces, looking at faces in a grid. There are studies on that. Some people do not do well with Zoom studies because the brain is constantly trying to analyze 25 people. Small groups, 5, 10, not so bad. But, woe betide you get into the strip of faces on the second or third strip and you're not in gallery view. If you're over here in the third strip, you're just forgotten about. I'm saying that as a host as well as a participant. It's a skill to remember to keep skidding over on the strip of faces and seeing everybody else. And of course you don't know because as a participant, you're right here and you wonder why nobody's waving at you or saying anything on private chat. I'm telling you, it's something. But yes, to see that wall of faces, sharing information, having your slideshow, going back and forth, remembering. There's the oopsie moments of remembering when you're in share and when you're not in share. But, some people do not do well in that environment. Some people thrive. It's just like everything else. Some people are just the extrovert-introvert dynamic. Only now we've got Zoom meeting Brady Bunch folks who get off on that. They're great at it. And some who it drives them bonkers. Even when you're in, single speaker mode and the strip is up above. That's just, we know that's going on. So if for some reason we wind up with events like the virtual dealer's room, I predict headaches for a while as our brains try to rewire themselves into taking this thing that we all knew in real life and run it through the brain processor of a translation to a virtual event. So yeah, I was wiped out and I had a headache. Did I regret any of it? No, it was awesome. It was incredible. It was wonderful just to know that here's one other thing, damn it, that we're able to do during stay-at-home lockdown pandemic times. And I say that as somebody who wears my mask, by the way, whenever I go out. The only guilt I have about big mobs is I have not yet joined a protest, and I feel very guilty about it, and I'm working on that. There's so much work. I'm working harder than I ever did before the pandemic. But that's on my list. So don't shame me. Don't cancel culture me for not getting out. I do. I support all I can and boost messages and try to find the standout moments and not the same old, same old. We are still a member of Trekkies Together. I do still have a bit on my page for pushing the ACLU and the Southern Poverty Law Center as worthy nonprofits. Southern Poverty Law ACLU defending any Black Lives Matter protesters of any color who are caught up in anything like that, as well as the rights, all the ripple effects, and Southern Poverty Law, who are not only defending somewhat the same way, but looking at the social aspects that the pandemic has ripped away that's made Black Lives Matter even worse, as well as the health effects, the social effects, and also identifying their target, their trademark project has been identifying hate groups. As we see the potential of hate group, the Boogaloo Boys, all this, I'd say nonsense, but it's very real and dangerous as we've been seeing murders and arrests happen. Totally tangential, just trying to pile onto the chaos where there needs to be no chaos. It's a pretty simple, clear message. that's been going on. Got to the end of a stream there. So yeah, I'm just curious to hear. I hope we have some people on today that were there having taken a look. We will look at that after the break. I say that. So yeah, I just think this is the beginning, depending on how much we stay up with this kind of format, especially breaking out of, again, one-to-one, point-to-point situations. How much of that dynamic, the 3D, right, the 2D virtual, I feel like this was almost like a 3D virtual. Still looking at a screen, obviously, so not really, but conceptually, we're in a 3D world with that virtual dealer's room. And I'm anxious to hear if anybody else is going to attempt it. I was just so curious. It has been a lifeline. Some of the dealers made sales. It was great. A lot of people just got their message out and met new folks. People got introduced, and that's half the battle of a dealer's room, half the instinct for it. So yeah. Hey, let's get to the questions after the break. Before we do that, again, I want to thank all of our Patreons here in our TTL club. There's not really a mug, but there ought to be, I guess. If you're curious about what Patreon is, it's the way, kind of the chief way it's evolved the last few years for folks to digitally support their favorite creatives, whatever it might be. Film, music, TV, poetry, art, filmmaking, you name it. As a subscription or as a project-to-project basis. I have a very simple one. It's at patreon.com/Tuesdays Live. Trekland, I do that every week. It's Trekland Live on Patreon. $5, $10. It's a very simple, some folks have very elaborate, like GoFundMe type crowdfunding thing. I just have a very simple $5, and it's a shout out. Thank you every week. $10 a month is a thank you, and access to those early Portal 47 guest videos from the first, ongoingly first year or two. So consider that if you would. I just want to say before I go here at the break, though, real quick, that the reason we have Third Tuesdays, guys, Third Tuesdays are always special. I always have a 24-hour deal. So here's what I'm doing. I'm resurrecting the deal for 24 hours, wherever you are, that I had at Connected Comic-Con, which is what we've called in the past our 3-for-2, very short-term, uncertain times in the pandemic times. It's our super simple sample 3-for-2 deal. You get 2 months of Portal 47 by 3. It's not a year as normal, not even the 6-month holiday special. It's a very special one just to get your Trek connection on. If you enjoy these virtual moments, if that's all new to you, that's what we'll be doing in the Portal for 5 years. But it's guests you would never hear about anyway, for the most part. You'd never hear from them on stage, maybe occasionally in a panel, in a small panel. But it adds so much to your knowledge of Star Trek. Plus, articles out of my archives and our roundtables. We have the Ask Dr. Treks twice, including the Europeans. There's discounts on all of our Trekland projects and things. There's a discount on Treks when we're able to do film site tours here in LA. So anyway, that's up until 24 hours till midday tomorrow. I'll just say 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock Pacific tomorrow. How about that? Wherever you are. Jump in on that. Happy Third Tuesday, guys. Otherwise, I just want to remind everybody we are coming down to the next to last. They call that penultimate in polite society. The next to last meetup for Nonfiction Fridays. This week, the book is The Letters to Star Trek. I didn't grab the book as a prop, but I have 2 copies somehow. Join us 3 p.m. Pacific on Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's 11 British summer, I know. Midnight Europe, but hey. It's a Zoom meeting. Go to the Facebook page, catch the Zoom ID and the password, and come in. We've got 2 more weeks. This is the next to last week. Even more, I'm really, really proud, as you all often hear me say that I mentioned earlier, of Life Support Live on Saturdays, now at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. British. And Dr. Ali and I, 2 doctors, one of us is a real one, we look at Star Trek. We say we boldly go through uncertain times. Star Trek and mental health, have a lot of fun geeking out, and also offer you some support tips. All chatting. We can Skype call in and join us. It's amazing. Please do that. We've got some surprises coming up in future weeks too, but I really, really love what we're doing with the show. But even as much as that is the podcast world, oh, the Life Support Live is going to be a podcast soon too, by the way, be reposted. But also, the Trek Files from Roddenberry every Tuesday. Today's is up. John is back with me. We're looking at the end of the cancellation times from two famous people that did their own flyers. One of them not so famous at the time. Check it out at the Trek Files on Facebook. Leave a comment. Check out the documents there. Yeah, every week. The Trek Files on Facebook. Okay. Wow, that's going to be it, guys, except for at Larry Nemecek on Twitter is the place. Same as the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe me over there. We're building it up, okay? But if you're watching on Facebook right now, Larry Nemecek's Trekland, it's the same on Instagram. And hey, consider the Patreon if you would. And if you want to do more than that to support what we're doing here, my Trekland point of view, just come over and just join the portal with us. I got a special right now. What's your excuse? But you can read about the portal at portal47.net. Don't do it there. Don't join there, though. Go to the special link, okay? Get the special, at least through, Wednesday, 3 p.m. So, guys, that is it for here for now. But stay tuned after the break. We will get to live Q&A. We'll get to the parrot ratings and all that fun stuff. I can't wait. I think I don't have to shift today. I think we're going to be good. So, seriously, guys, so much going on. Stay healthy out there. Stay woke. I mean that in the big picture way. Watch out for your fake news. Check your sources. Most of all, of course, trek well, everybody. And we're back. Yeah. Let's look at the parrots. Again, no active Star Trek. No real thrill for us. Still weird that they've changed the reporting system. Parrot Analytics, the company out of New Zealand, 9 going on 10 years now. No, not 10 years. 2017. Oh, forget it. They came to the U.S. We've just been following since the advent of Discovery. Thank you once again, John X. They have their own analytic, their own algorithm called average demand expressions, because all these streaming networks that once again have changed the paradigm, the Nielsen ratings for the old school networks, it's a non-issue. It's like the Earth calendar once you get into space and other systems. It's pointless. So, yeah, Parrot Analytics came up with their own Stardate system, in a way. It's average demand expressions measuring the internet for popularity of shows based on whatever the hell anybody is putting out there. Whether it's corporate PR, it's fan reaction, it's memes, it's commentary, it's critics, reaction to all the above. And they've been doing this for several years, their ADEs, putting it out. They do it in many countries. The U.S. is the biggest market. The U.S. At their site, anybody can get it, is posted every week by Saturday night or by Sunday night for the week prior. They do special reports. This is the third week now they've shifted the gear to where they don't just give you their raw ADEs. Again, not viewer eyeball numbers, but a reflection of popularity online, which means the audience has to be online. So if the Lawrence Welk show was still a thing, I don't think that the parrots would be fair to its popularity. That was a deep cut. Sorry, guys. Yeah. This week, just looking at the streaming onlys. Come on, guys. The streaming onlys. They're measuring everything in terms of percentage of average show, which they don't give you a demographic. The second week, they said 40% of all streaming shows are considered average in their numbers, and then some are below that and some are above. And then they rank the average, good, outstanding, and exceptionals. So our top 10 is slightly different. They say it's very close. So the top 10, number one is 13 Reasons Why, ending up its season. 78.6 times more popular. See, it's a whole different dynamic. I'm just mainly waiting for Trek to come back to see how it fares. But for now, I will tell you the top 10 popular streaming-only shows. 13 Reasons Why, Stranger Things, The Mandalorians, The Clone Wars, Harley Quinn, Titans, The Witcher, Narcos, Space Force, and Lucifer. Yeah, Space Force dropped big time from being number one, number two. The number, we're not looking at raw numbers. So number 10, Lucifer, is 30.8 times more popular than the average show, streaming and otherwise, which is making it right just down to outstanding. Everything else is in the exceptional range. This isn't near as satisfying as it used to be. Meanwhile, overall this week, SpongeBob was back to number one, 91 times more popular than an average show. 13 Reasons Why, the number one digital, is number two here. Then My Hero Academia, Game of Thrones. Oh my God, people are really digging those reruns. Avatar: Last Airbender, Rick and Morty, The Flash, then Stranger Things, the number two digital, over here at 8, and then Paw Patrol. Yes, my little Alice. And number 10 this week was Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, who did a completely huge Black Lives Matter episode Sunday night. Apparently is what got it. It's 65 times more popular than an average show. It was good enough to vault them into number 10 this week. Interesting. Yeah, parents aren't quite as just, number crunchingly interesting as they used to be, but there you go. Hey, I didn't say anything to our Twitchers. I hope I didn't leave you guys too out there. Okay, I'm going to not be able to save everybody. Most people are coming in on Facebook. I can see a Twitcher already here that's coming in blue. Wow, why is Twitch coming in blue? Okay, I'm sorry, I've got to look at this. Not sure. Oh, I see. That's interesting. Jerkcoff TTV donated $5. Oh, okay. Jared, did I not put the second R back in your name when I redid it? Jesus Christ. This is the way we thank our Patreon patrons. Come here, buddy. Oh my God! I am so sorry, Jared. I have a printer now. I will do a new one, no excuse. That's pathetic on my part. That's just pathetic. I am so sorry. Okay, let's finish. I've only got 45 minutes or an hour's worth of, but good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. And if you're new, I will try to give you a shout out. If you've been in once and I've just now noticed it, so, cut me break. Let's see who all's here. I noticed I didn't have to reset because I can remotely scroll on big screen. Good to see everybody, really. Adam Fool. Fool. Hello. Chris Hill, finally back in a normal schedule. Yay, that's always a good thing. Hey, Stephen. Aaron Gallo, hello. See, guys, about the notifications, YouTube and Facebook have a notification, but Restream that I'm using here has its own notification system, and I can, just as I'm streaming to multiple platforms, I can notify with it, hell, we're going live. So maybe some of you are getting the Restream, hey, we're live. And it might be more reliable than the Facebook. I don't know. But thank you. We've got more than one Twitcher going, guys. If you stuck with it, you'll know, and I'll see the analytics later. You'll know that I tried to say at the beginning that questions come later, which is atypical for Twitch unless you're really, really indoctrinated or you have bots working for you, which I need to get. Hey, David Caps. Hey, Willie. Hey, Richard. Okay. There you go, Glenn. The weekend's virtual con vendor room was amazing. Got some gibberish going on over here. Okay, I think we got some Twitch gibberish going on. Rebecca, too many ridiculous rumors this week, but they're on sites like We Got This Covered. And I'm ignoring them. I don't, I saw Ketwalski jumped in on the road and checked in only because I just see headlines and I don't always catch everybody else's, even the good YouTubers, because if they're forced to talk about stupid stuff. Yeah. Hey, Aldine. Virtual activity is somewhat easier than the manual zine world back in the 70s and 80s. Well, yeah, not as many hoops, not as much cost once you get your subscriptions paid, if that's part of it. Nard is here from the outback in Australia. We're so global. We've got UK, we've got the Europeans. Yeah, Stephen, the virtual con was a lot of fun. Rebecca says, I'm so grateful for the virtual events, but I just get tired of staring at my screen, so I wind up missing them. Or it's at an inconvenient BST times. I know. But I'm still glad they're happening for those that can attend. You got Virtual Con on Sunday started at 8 p.m. Not horrible. Ended at 11. The later things were late for you guys. Rebecca says, someone says Dragon Con doesn't pay guests. That doesn't sound right. They pay for the celebrities. They pay for the big top line guests. But for people showing up, there's a lot of like actor types that show up for their booths, and they pay for their booth and pay for it out of what they make. So that's it. Orlando Geek. Whoop, you found the Twitch. Yep. Oh boy. The Twitch is going to be fun. And probably a lot of guys walked away. Is this a recording, guys? Rebecca, Tim, it was said on the Consolation group, because I pointed out the whole needing to pay people, and that was legitimately what somebody said. Yeah, I think so. Only the top, 5 or 6, 8 people are paid. Same way with Comic-Con. They pay for the headliner guests, but most things are provided by like a studio or a game company or a publisher brings people in, or people get there on their own. They decide that it's worth it financially or promotion-wise. Like the internet. We don't pay anything, but it's great promotion. People got to eat. Yeah, hi, Clayton. Yeah, that's why we're now promoting Facebook for Life Support Live on Saturdays, although the YouTube channels will be open. Hey, Glenn. Hey. Okay. Live, folks, live in the time of pandemic. Glenn says the lack of live streaming for virtual STCC is going to be disappointing after the fantastic time I think everyone had at the Science Div event. Well, true, I think so. But Glenn, I still think a lot of people are going to come to the STCC audience. Their promotional umbrella is thousands, if not millions, that reach. Love Kayla and Jake, but the Science Division footprint was tiny. It's tiny compared to even what GalaxyCon has been doing with guests. despite 3 weeks of hard promotion, it really blew up the week before. But, a max of 100 people saw Sid talk, and then there was an overflow YouTube room that may have had 50 people. I haven't gone to see the numbers, and of course now it's into reviews, not live viewing. But at the most, people coming and going may have had 200 people there. And as exhausting and as full as that felt, there's still virtual limits to all these numbers. The one thing about being recorded, obviously, is you're just another YouTube video, even if you're under a branding umbrella. But the footprint promo-wise of San Diego Comic-Con is going to be huge. The panel I record with Andre and Narain and Aaron, the panel I'm going to do for them, even without it being live with Q&A, the panel is going to be seen by thousands of people, way more than ever see anything that I've done here live. So I'm excited for that opportunity, to be frank. I was disappointed because I wanted to get these three together in front of a live audience. Even if I was in Hall H and had 5,000 or 6,000 people live and live streaming, that would still be eventually a drop in the bucket compared to the people that could see it residually online archived. Which is why everybody needs to be on YouTube, even if you're not live streaming to YouTube, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. But that's exciting. But your point about the lack of live streaming is disappointing. Yes, it was exciting, and that's going to grow and evolve and change to where more people can be live and taking part. You were live watching it in the overflow room on YouTube, but you weren't there live in the room. Even though it really wasn't set up for questions in that case, the nature of that particular welcome panel, it was a conversation between the moderators and the guests with folks watching. A few shout-outs, a few questions. But as that evolves, we'll see where that goes. Larry, do you know if there's any way for fans to ask about the possibility of a live component? Here's the thing, San Diego, they have a brand and a reputation to uphold. They are very conscious about being safe, right? And that means safe for all ages. Or at least having a mature theme in the case of, a lot of anime, a lot of author talking, a lot of art talking, having some kind of a mature warning for audiences. And that's fine. They just want to have everything controlled. Having people send in random things that maybe in good intentions slip. They just want to have control. So we're all doing 45-minute recordings that they will brand. We're not supposed to frame. We can have brands in the picture, but we're not supposed to frame it. They're going to do a complete post, which is why they wanted things done early. Our deadline is next Monday to submit. The deadline for all the submitted virtuals, they just announced it last week, right, to the mass audience. But the deadline for all of us to submit is Monday. We've known about it for a month. And they're going to roll them out probably the way they did WonderCon, probably a few a day. It won't be a one-time go on a program and check it out, which is what the live convention and the Makers Con that I was part of in April did. They actually had a live with posted later, but for the first go round you could go to things live on a grid schedule like you'd get in your app now. So they'll be there, but they're going to process hundreds of 45-minute panels, stick a brand on it, and check them for mature warnings and all that kind of thing. So that's them looking out for themselves and their brand and people that come to Comic-Con knowing what they're going to get, even despite or whatever they read in the description. But yeah, it's going to take away. Feedback on that? I don't know how feedback is going to alter unless they come up with ways to have, I don't know, a live window. You leave a live message after you've watched it. Like an overtime after, say, a show like Bill Maher Real Time, and they have an overtime on YouTube that allows a live and local component to what was done in a studio, only this would be somewhat different. I don't know. But go to, they have Facebook and they have a Twitter account. If you want to do that, if you want to mount a campaign and say, hey, SDCC or CCI, I wish there was some way you could invent a live component to all these wonderful panels. A lot of the panels, they're not actor focused. They're 4 or 5 people who work on your show that you love, or writers, or authors, or actors, or artists. It's Comic-Con. It's all over the map as far as interests go, and the dynamic will play out virtually. I'm going to keep ours simple. But if you're doing, art or CGI or anime, and it's a studio, studios are recording things, sponsoring just as they do. If you've got a show to promote, the studio budget is going to, I'm sure, be very glossy and get video inserts and stills involved. We're going to keep ours simple, but still highly entertaining. I hope you all look for it. But I would just say go on their social. Glenn, just go on their social. Clayton says it'll be so strange to have a virtual dealer's room. We did. Everyone's used to walking up, picking the thing up, all that touch and connection stuff. A dealer's room is, oh, Clayton, so you're one of those people that walks up and touches things. Yes, obviously you can't look at the stuff you actually want to buy. They'll have things for sale. They'll have their online sites. I'm sure they'll be promoting things, virtually, visually. They did. But again, a lot of the vendors, a lot of the booths weren't so much retail, or if they were, it was specific retail. Like I had 1 or 2 Portal 47 specials at my booth, but it was all retail. It was still talky. A lot of people were there, were to show, were to crafty demo. There were cosplayers, artists, writers just talk. It was like sometimes you got into mini panels, which is great, except it's not if you're trying to sell. Fan Sets was one of the licensees. Of course, Science Division had a booth on their own with Tribbles, but Fan Sets was there revealing new product. It was really the hit of this dealer's room, everybody told me. They didn't have 100 in the room, but they had lots of people there for a long extended time. They sucked up all the energy. They were the Shatner on stage that sucked everybody out of the dealer's room. So I would disagree with you, Clayton. A dealer's room in virtual space is no different than Amazon shopping. Maybe if you're only thinking strictly of the retail, but there was a lot of human interactive component to it, just as you would get at those kind of dealers' rooms, tables. You go to a Comic-Con and you got Bugsy over there with 5 billion plastic bags worth of comics, probably not so much difference. But this was fancier, Etsyr, if you looked at the list of folks there. Fan Sets was the only big company that was really there, and they're as fanish as you get. It's Lou and John and their families. Yes, Glenn, making it live. That's going to be the missing component, the battle for this. Mark says, I'm very much forward looking to going to the movies again, but more than that, I just missed my Friday board game nights with my friends. Yeah, even virtual board games, and people are experimenting. It has been incredible, experimentation time. Dan says the Sci-Fi Ball piloted a live stream in February where you could watch the panels for a fee to the charity. Yeah, and Sci-Fi Ball happened live, right? It was before if it was February in the UK. Am I correct? Or did Sci-Fi have to cancel live events? I can't remember now. Because things hit Europe sooner than us. I don't remember if the UK was playing along. Because we were worried about going to Italy by February until it became a moot point. Jared says there are SAG financial reasons that conventions have not been doing live broadcasts of most guests at conventions. True. There were experiments in the 90s with, I think I've mentioned it, with STLV. There was a guy bought a license from Paramount, used to work with StarTrek.com, old StarTrek.com, LA-based and news-focused, but he bought a license and tried to completely build up on late 90s, early aughts terms an avatar convention where you attended as an avatar and saw all the live events as avatars, not just streaming camera. And it was a huge, he did not survive the first year. But he was trying to be techie exciting. It was kind of a dot-com boom version of that. Oh my God, Clayton, did I say woe betide? Was it somebody else? Yep. Strippoface. Is that a virtual stripogram? No. Strippofaces. Yeah. David Cap says, what's the best way to stay up on the various online convention happenings? Somebody may be answering this, but I think there are websites and Facebook pages emerging. I know that Marina, Kravchuk, not Certus, Marina was trying to keep up with a list of virtual events happening, maybe on their Shore Leave podcast page or her personal page. Someone's going to chime in here by the time I catch up with you guys, I know. Glenn says, the only time you wear a mask if you're in a closed space in a crowd, like a grocery store. If I'm walking around my neighborhood or walking the dog, there's no need. That's true. I just keep expecting you're going to come up and talk about the virus being in clouds, residual clouds, which is silly. But that's true. Then you got the ear dangle. Steven says, it's just a participant. I did not feel drained after the con, but actually wished it had gone on longer just so I could have talked to more people. True. The 3 hours flew by. It had different stages, but it flew by. Part of my headache exhaustion might have been from running the trivia event breathlessly, and we were part of it was the new. I think that's part of it too. Part of the exhaustion was, doing an experiment for 10 minutes is one thing, or doing an experiment for an hour, but doing an experiment and wondering what the dynamics are going to play out and how you react, and it's kind of on your shoulders. Maybe that was it for me. I don't know. Thank you, though, for the feedback. I didn't know how the participant experience was. I know some people were exhausted. Some people got sucked into rooms and wanted to get out and see more rooms and talk more. So yeah, it's that part of the experience of a dealer's room, not so much the buying. Glenn says you got invited to two people's podcasts as a participant, which surprised the heck out of me. Wow, it surprised the heck out of me too. No, I'm kidding. And by participant, you mean a guest, I think you mean. Brian, totally missed it, didn't know how to join and wasn't involved. You didn't come in and poke around even? Oh, I've been talking about it for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. Another spate of Twitch folks from all over. Hey, Ellen. I don't know if anybody saw your video Rama double Sunday. Thank you, Robin. Robin says, I've been loving the live support lives. They're awesome. Thank you so much. We're hoping they're doing some good and spreading the word at the same time. Life support live. There's where the other R from your name went. Yeah, Jared, thanks for bopping in. Oh, Dr. Ali's a huge, that's why, yes, Glenn says Dr. Ali holds his own as a fan when it comes to Star Trek knowledge as well. Yeah, even Arn with Goog. No, Ali's a fan. I mean, he and Drea did their Star Trek versus Star Wars mental health panels, and she everything she is to Star Wars, he is to Star Trek. He still wants to work with me, obviously, but he wouldn't be working with me if he wasn't a fan. Your typical stodgy psychologist wouldn't get it, but he's on the cutting edge of trying to use all things geek to spread the message and the good of mental health awareness and tips and all of that. Oh, Clayton, actually the way mentally ill are on Star Trek is a topic, but it's more like topics like sleep, anxiety, depression, bullying, prejudice. It's those kind of things. We look at Star Trek references and examples, and then, and even though some of the subjects can be dour, we keep it light, so we geek out through that lens, and then turn it around. And Ali always has an away team list of suggestions people can take away, but it's always very light. Like I used to say, there's no Psych 101 quiz the next day. We do have a lot of fun with it, but good fun. All in the family fun, not mocking fun. But it's definitely, and it's all, we have chat. The chat room keeps it going. And we have Skype too. People can Skype in on camera with us. Girl, she was Orion. Yes, we've got the Orion. The girl from Orion is the girl from Ipanema. Oh, is today Captain Picard Day? I'm so out of it. I think it is Captain Picard Day. I should have said Happy Picard Day, everybody. You missed the raw ADE measurement. Oh, we're so sentimental. Stardate 2006.16 still works for today. Yes. Trek on the Tube just dropping by, everybody. Yay! Great podcasts. He's in YouTube, so it's kind of lonely over there. Okay, Jared, you're an old soul. You knew my Lawrence Welk reference. Candle in the wind. Christoph replying to Brian's. Seriously, they had links and a PDF with a nice overview table with links and Zoom passwords on their homepage. Could have asked us. There isn't a bubble emoji for... Are you sure there's not a bubble emoji for something? Look at all these old souls. Hello, Anna, watching from Portugal. You tried Space Force, but yeah. And sorry, I hope you guys get it that these questions are delayed until now. Truck on the Tube. What frustrates me the most is that Netflix and other VOD platforms aren't transparent with their numbers. Oh, yes, talking about streaming. There should be a rule or a law that obligates every platform to give exact figures. Yeah, well, it's the evolution of the thing, and it's like, it's just now. Look, social media here in the U.S. Social media has just been, it's been around for 15 years now. 10 to 12 to 15 years. People are just now getting the ramifications of its impact on society and culture and privacy and data mining and manipulation, bots and trolls. It's just now getting around to people are grappling with regulation, what kind of government regulation should happen to protect the citizens. But in that 10, 12, 15 years, the whole culture corporately and enough, it grandfathered in possibility. Now there's enough standing to be able to fight, to oppose, to organize political battles. It's hard to know how to regulate something when it's one of these brand new baby industries that jumps up. Everything finally gets regulated after it had to grow up and prove itself and, even be aware, even be a conscious thing in society. And by the time that happens, by the time you see the problems, it's gotten entrenched. So, yeah, not that this is a social problem, knowing Netflix and Hulu and Prime's numbers, CBS All Access, but they've had 10, 12 years to commercially be in this model. Social media has. And Netflix and VOD, they've had 3, 4, 5 years. Measure it in normal years. They'll have a lot of standing to push back on that. Game of Thrones entire series summary. D&D on crack where everybody dies. Kinda, yeah. And we've had our 100 messages. Yay. Thank you, Anna, for the support in Portugal anyway, that I'm just getting to your... Twitch looks normal for you. Okay. Thank you, Christoph. Truck on the Tube's talking about, yes, numbers would be, yes. Again, Parrot came up with, a fill-in, a workaround for something they could access and that they could, still trademark and have a business model off of, which is mainly consulting with makers. It's not so much public. Ah, good. Found some bubbles. Forehead the series. Oh, I've forgotten the, hey, Steve Atwell on YouTube. Hi back at you. It's got to be lonely over there on YouTube, right? Maybe. So Canada has the top 10 most watched things at the moment, but they could just be straight up lying in order to push a certain show or movie. True. True. Well, thank you, Clayton, for go see if anybody. There's some community in YouTube. Yeah, I know we were late. I was fighting tech today, guys. Uh, the more you complicate the plumbing, the more you stop up the sink. And I had a little tech issue on the delay today, but we're all good. We got there. This is still only the second or third week I've been doing this. Yeah, Steven says apparently the LGBT talking about the stupid rumors about Kirk not only coming back but being a bisexual character. It's like, who's making these up just for clickbait? But he's saying the LGBTQ news site Pink News picked up on that story and citing the same trash website as the source. You can't fault them because they're new to their radar is covering gender news, right? Headlines, LGBTQ. They don't have a filter for knowing in the Trek world who the clickbait toxic monsters are and who's legit. So you can't fault them. Hopefully their audience stream clicked in and the Trek segment of their audience came up and said, "Oh my God, this is a trash site. It's clickbait. Ignore them." Clayton, did you find anybody? Yeah. Hey, Heidi. No worries about being belated. I'm just now getting to you. There you go. Rebecca, you're right. The clickbait sites that say we broke this rumor here first. No, if it's a rumor, it's been going around already. It's word of mouth. You don't break word of mouth rumor. If you're reporting on a rumor, maybe you're the first news site to report the rumor, but you don't break the rumor. That would be starting the rumor. Oh well. Well, you know, Trek on the Tube, hosting a live panel one day at a small con, but you'd be so nervous you're not capable of doing it. Baby steps. Everybody takes baby steps. Yeah. True, depending on who's running the camera on the live panels, it'll be easier to follow than a live con. Unless it's a huge con that has big screens. Hey, some more Twitchers are jumping by. They're being typical Twitch folks, looking around and going, why is this thing got 5 people in it? There's nothing happening. So sorry we didn't catch you live, guys. Oh, okay, buddy. Glenn says, one thing I love about SDCC is the live panel experience where actors are interacting with each other. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I intend to have Narain and Andre and Aaron interacting in a rare situation that I would have loved to have had done live, because the panache to it is a little higher, but we'll see. Yeah, that's what I thought, Daniel. Sci-Fi Ball was live. They had a virtual component, so yay. Interesting to see how John Bannerman, the queen of the stage strut, adapts to the virtual environment. Very true. Very true. Does he give himself a big room when he's on camera? Heidi says, shit started hitting the fan in the beginning of March in Northern Europe. England was a bit slower than the other countries to lock down. That's what I was thinking. Northern Europe. We'll see. Italy, the northern Italy area was already breaking out bad because we were worried about going to our convention. And then it finally was moot down south. And then when North Italy became no different than all of Italy, when it exploded, it all became moot. And that was early March. Yeah, I didn't catch it either. Barrow and not Bannerman. John Bannerman. Jack Barrowman, John Bannerman, And John Bannerman, of course, was I know nothing Schultz on Hogan's Heroes, and don't ask me how I even remembered that. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Robin, I wish you'd be able to check into. Hey, I love how all the Twitch kids come on and think they're going to be really, really pokey if they start talking about Star Wars. It's funny. Thank you, Robin, for sharing our videos with the rest of your groups. Thank you. It's all appreciated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's great. What I'm really trying to push now is getting numbers up on the... It'd be nice to at least get to 1,000. It's been in the high 900s for the last week or two. So everybody like, subscribe, and share my YouTube channel, which is just Larry Nemecek. I may have to rebrand it. Stephen. Yep. The name of Janeway's dog or Dixon Hill's secretary. The two questions you got wrong. Very good. That's like years ago at Old Starland, which is still going in Denver when things are going. Stephen, and I've gone blank on their name. Oh my God, I can't believe this. But Starland in Denver, and Joyce from Kansas City fan used to come over and always do a live Jeopardy game. I mean, a full round. Or 2 rounds. She had a regular Jeopardy, double Jeopardy, and a final Jeopardy. They had a quiz to weed people out. They got the 3 best scores, and we played Jeopardy. And I did it for 3 or 4 or 5 visits in a row. And I lost Final Jeopardy because I did not know the color of Ruth's dress from Shore Leave. I was like, you could tell I was a guy probably because it wasn't a uniform, so what did I care? And when I did not know, you could hear half the room gasp. Like, what do you mean you don't know? It's black and white. How did I not know that? I'll always remember that one. I know the feeling. Okay. Have I ever thought about playing Star Trek video games on Twitch? No, because, and don't hate me, everybody, I never, okay, number one, when video games went from arcades to home, I hated it because a little handheld joystick did not allow you you couldn't get the whole body. To me, video games originally were all about your whole body, and I didn't want to get carpal tunnel in my wrist at a young age. So I never made the switch to games, and they were expensive, and I was on my own then, and blah, 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 blah. And then in the era of Star Trek, the games were like, they weren't a joke, but they were a passing thing. I know, we've had STO for 10 years. I know. I didn't jump over, then it lasted. I loved and supported STO. I kept thinking for several years that I would lend myself into some kind of virgin STO experience at a con, or to do it, I talked to the guys at Cryptic about it, and back when the A&T show was a big STO backer. I've said something about it to Elio now on Priority 1. Someday I'm going to break my STO virginity for a good cause, is what I'm saying. But no, I'm not doing it at home, so I wouldn't be much of a Twitch host. Now, trying to figure out what to host on Twitch, a watch-along, a recap show, I don't know. There's so many million of them, it feels like now. I would want to do something that wasn't, again, just the same old, same old. I want to add something new to the mix that's not just piling on, because a lot of other people are doing good stuff now, and I would want to spend my time and the audience's attention on something different. So, if you got any ideas, though, flash them at me. I'd have to figure out how to produce it, too. One-man bandit, probably. WhedonCon 2020 is virtual. I thought the dates have already passed, though, right? They're going to do a delayed virtual. I should get in touch with them and see what's going on. Yeah, Glenn. I mean, it's the circles. If you were if you were on the unofficial Star Trek page, I know they had it there because that's where it started. Science Division started it as a way to help all the STLV vendors, delayed or not, the delay is going to be about virtual, is going to be about the guests, and they didn't want the vendors to be forgotten, even if there's a delay. People need their money they count on in the summer. So yeah, it's the same as true with a lot of things. First, a lot of people complained that the Trekkies Together combined charity stand-up moment for Black Lives Matter and defund police, et cetera, that a lot of people didn't get the first call to be a part of that. And so it happens. Sometimes you're not thinking about that when it's not your thing and somebody else calls you. You go, sure, yeah. You're not playing, Papa for the whole thing. Anyway, they're talking about doing it again and doing it bigger, and the world will know. The world will know. Well, Rebecca, social media in the mid-late 90s was like message boards. I mean, there was no Facebook, Twitter. There wasn't even MySpace. That's all like mid-aughts, right? I mean, yes, I know. We had web pages, and you had message boards. And yeah, it was on the Geekies. Canadians don't lie. Clayton, thank you very much for the comments about Star Trek Continues. You're not yet to the Mirror universe, McCoy. Well, you'll have a big surprise, but thank you for your comments about my McCoy, the first 2 episodes. Richard, breaking rumors is like breaking wind. Push too hard and you get the same results. Yes. Oh, but they've exclusively broke it. Yeah, or whatever. How do they know? How do they know some little podcast in Tajikistan didn't do it first? I need caveats. We're the first English language rumor breaker on this. Have we thought about recording a Zoom or the like for SDCC? Probably wouldn't allow it, just a thought. Well, I did. I went through the process, and we're doing this panel for SDCC. Hey, Scott, catch up. Hi, Rose. I'm sorry you're having visited. I didn't mean to not shout out. I just was looking for real questions and comments aside from personal user interface. But hopefully you can hang in with us. Well, yeah, early video games were disappointing on the surface. I miss the arcade room smell. That sweat mixed with popcorn and Coke and, yeah, forget it. And raw quarters stacked up on the arcade shelf. Now, okay, just to be, thank you, Jared, wants to be my, just to, I always called it paper and dice games. Now tabletop is the phrase. But I D&D'd because I had to, because that's how I saw my friends. You all know I care nothing about medieval times. It's not an interest of mine. I know I'm smart enough to know that's a big thing to everybody else, whether you're watching Game of Thrones or you're reading Lord of the Rings or watching the movies or you're D&D'ing or any rip-off fantasy D&D game of the last 50 years. I know that. It's just not me, okay? We're big enough to throw a few personal comments. But I did game, we did tabletop. In fact, I invented one because no one else would play with me as a player, so I had to DM it. And we tried the FASA game a couple of times, and my gaming friends thought it was slow and clunky. So we did our own. So I've done tabletop and I've done that. But so I've done, yeah, tabletop gaming. Star Trek Adventures, the RPG, we helped. Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. Had some interaction with Star Trek Adventures. I voiced a character in, no, I'm kidding. We're laughing. Marina, hi Marina. Destination had a virtual trivia game in Facebook today. Had a nice trick question. In what city would Montgomery Scott do a pub crawl? They meant his hometown. Well, he says he says an Aberdeen pub crawl that he was in, right? It's at Aberdeen, but Linlithgow is the Chamber of Commerce town that stepped up to claim it back right when the shows first went off. That was big news in 05 and 06. Yeah, except I didn't call it. I mean, I think Kayla was kind of like not getting it. I was making pains to call the after party beam out trivia, not landing party, because we weren't landing, we were taking off. So anyway, okay, now we're into video games. Okay, so WhedonCon's been delayed to October. Alrighty. What I'm going to do for Virtual TrekCon? No. And I told Ryan that I would host and moderate as well as, do guesty things. So I really, really, really want to host and moderate. For somehow, people aren't getting it, that if you're a professional journalist and a trained interviewer who has spent the last 10 years getting much, much better on camera even, and live, to have your skills not be utilized by all. So I very much want to host and moderate, as well as, guests and talk about my wheelhouses. So anybody out there, say, why is Larry not hosting and moderating more panels and guests? He's been doing it for his whole life, much less the last 10 years. Feel free. Love the love the game room discussion here, guys. Yeah, the Odyssey 2 at Stubman Village in Norman. I can say it too. Or the 4 machines in the front of the Mazzios in Ada, where I went to college. Sorry, Rose, you're having issues again there. Yep, many Star Trek board games, including the new ones. It was Aberdeen. Yay. Okay. And we're into games. Are we at the end of the questions? More? Okay, I think I'm at the bottom of questions. Yay, guys. Okay, I probably wrung that out a little longer than we should have gone on. The open request for panels at conventions. Yeah, my request was to host and moderate. 1 or 2. If it turns into a gig, I would like to be paid for a gig. But, yes, especially when you're doing... The one thing about virtual, even though live conventions were taped, people are hanging on to virtual con recordings now, and they are... there's much more of them, and people are searching for them. They know they're out there. So the shelf life is going to be, and the eyeball count will hopefully be good. Thank you for sharing, Glenn. I think that's going to do it for us, guys. I think we about talked this out. Remember, the opening topic here was, are we rewiring our brains? Basically, I know we are. It's a matter of how much we're spending here. Sometimes we come away with a headache. I know we're going to talk about this on a week to come. In fact, I think it's been a topic on the vote. How about I just do this, guys? Most of all here, if you have not watched us on Life Support Live, I really invite you to do it. It's 10 a.m. Saturdays on this channel, YouTube right now, if you're on Facebook or YouTube. Either one, you can watch it. Or Twitch, for that matter. But probably the best chat experience is going to be on Facebook still. But I'm all for people founding a YouTube colony live, but it's going to be archived there. That's one of the choices. Zoom fatigue is one of the choices this week. If you go to the Facebook page, and vote on our poll coming up this week, check it out. Check that out. We have a lot of fun. This week on the Trek Files, the episode is up right now. We're talking letters from 2 famous people, one of them not yet famous at the time, reacting to the cancellation of Star Trek and what would future Star Treks even look like. Interesting stuff, interesting people, interesting conversation. As always, on Facebook, The Trek Files. You can comment there too and see the documents. Just like every week, Nonfiction Friday. Fridays at 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, 11 British, summertime. Our book this week is Letters to Star Trek by Susan Sackett from the 70s. Some of you have found it and read it. Even if you haven't read the books, come on by for the conversation. You might learn something. They're fascinating, and you never know who might drop by. We've had some surprising guests drop by in recent weeks. Hey, I want to shout out once more all of our Patreon contributors, including Jared, who really has 2 R's. If you want to help out, if you enjoyed this, if you want to help me keep it going and keep expanding, again, it's patreon.com/Trekland Live. Very simple, a $5 and a $10 support every month on the Patreon system. And I owe people perks. Yes. And once again, to finish off, since it is Third Tuesday, it's Third Tuesday, 24 hours. It's a bite size. It's a simple sample Portal 47, 3 months for the price of 2. That's why I called it Simple 342. LarryNemecek.com/Simple342. But the Clickarola is right there. You can click on it, or go to portal47.net and it's right there. But don't click on the regular button unless you want a full year. Okay, I'd be happy for that. If you want the special, make sure and use the special button. All right, guys. That's pretty much it for me. Have I exhausted you with signs yet? I know I'm exhausted. Not quite brain fried though, like I was. Brain fried in the best way. In the best way. But otherwise, it's at Larry Nemecek on Twitter and YouTube. If you're at YouTube, it's Larry Nemecek's Trekland. On Instagram, the same as Facebook. And of course, portal47.net. Thanks everybody thanks for being up with us. Thanks for being here on Tuesdays, everybody. I really, really appreciate it. What a wild 2020. We've gone from lockdown to marching virtually, to conventions virtually, to rewiring our brains, to meeting so many people, but not really, to getting to ask more questions of celebrities than ever before. Kind of, what a year. What a year. And you know what? There's a lot more to come. So I appreciate you guys stopping by on Tuesdays with me every week. Again, check out the rest of the Trekland Empire if you can. I'd really appreciate having you in all the niches. Really appreciate having you in the portal. And like Scott, who's got a pending Trekland Trek, I'd love to see you in LA someday when we can all get up and run around again, guilt-free with each other, having you on a Trekland Trek sometime. So, there we go. As always, everybody, as I said earlier, stay healthy. The manly thing to do is to do whatever the hell it takes to stay alive in a good way. So yes, stay healthy, stay woke in all the ways. Most of all, what that means, trek well, everybody.